expanded bottle bill that Beefberg's going to be talking about noon. Do you support that?
You know, I'm committed to increasing our efforts to recycle in Vermont. And my concern about the expanded bottle bill has always been that we implemented the bottle bill at a time when there was no recycling. I can remember those years. We used to take our bottles to the store and our garbage to the dump. Today, we have a new world. We take our recycling, it either gets picked up outside our house, in some cases in Vermont, or you take it to the green bins and you take your bottles to the grocery store. I would like to see us, as a state, move to a policy where everything gets recycled and where we have one-stop recycling, where you don't have to take some items to a grocery store and other items to your green bins. So I think that it's the wrong time to expand the bottle bill because it is an antiquated system of recycling. I don't think we should use our stores as the recycling centers. I think we should move to mandatory recycling as fast as we know how. So I've always opposed it. I think in the long run, if we had mandatory recycling, we wouldn't need the bottle bill. We're not there yet, but that should be the long-term goal for Vermont. The notion that we take bottles to stores and everything else goes into a separate recycling system in the long run is not smart public policy.
So you do support the bill that's in the House Natural Resources Committee right now? They're looking at mandatory recycling, this sort of new method. Is that what
I think that, you know, we've had trouble moving the recycling numbers in Vermont as a matter of public policy. And we're entering a new era, which is that I believe that in this country we're going to be fighting each other for garbage, fighting each other for recycled materials as they become more of a resource for both energy and other products that are made. And that's the development that's happening. Right now, you know, I'm getting calls from folks who, some pretty influential business people in the state who have figured out how to turn garbage into energy. And they're going to be looking for all kinds of waste there. We know that currently Casella is making all kinds of products out of recycled materials. So the world has changed, and we got to make sure that Vermont's public policy changes with it. Our goal should be 100% recycling. We can get there. I'm not sure that expanding the old dinosaurs is the fastest way to get there.
Garbage into energy, are we talking Icon too?
Well, no, you know, the technology that they have developed to, no, we're not. The technology that's been developed to turn garbage into energy has made huge progress technologically since Vicon. So we should look at it and learn more about it.
Governor, what do you think of Senator Luzzi's idea to ask the Public Service Board to put its decision about the CVPS GMP merger on hold until lawmakers can weigh in on how to get 51% of Velco? What do you think of that idea?
Well, let me first say that I have a lot of respect for Senator Luzzi. Every once in a while, he has an idea that probably shouldn't see the light of day, and I would say this is one of them. Listen, you're talking to a governor who believes in public ownership when it's right. I want to remind you, when Howard Dean was governor, I begged and pleaded with him to buy the hydro dams on the Connecticut and Deerfield rivers so that Vermont would have a continuous supply of green power that we would control. I wasn't in the legislature the last time that was debated, but I think Senator Luzzi did a great job leading that effort. Not good enough because we didn't get him. I think the notion of public ownership of Velco would be a mistake. It would put Vermont taxpayers on the hook for the liabilities of Velco when I don't think they should be on the hook for those liabilities. If a big storm goes through, like happened in New Orleans as an example, hundreds of millions of dollars to the transportation, to the transmission system, I don't want Vermont taxpayers on the hook for that. So the great thing about the proposal, which is getting lost in the weeds of this discussion, of the merger between CV and Green Mountain Power that the Public Service Department is pushing for at the board is for a 38% ownership where we have 5 public members on the board of Velco and have the public input without the liabilities to taxpayers. I think that is the perfect solution. I think Senator Luzzi's current idea is a problem in search of a solution.
So do you think it's a good idea to privatize the transmission?
I should say a solution in search of a problem. Sorry.
Instead of dividing the solution into two problems?
Come again? Yeah.
I was wondering about privatization of the Vermont State Hospital. You seem to be for privatizing the state's transmission lines, but you don't appear to be so fond of the idea of privatizing VSH, or the new version of VSH.
I'm not for privatizing we have a private system now to transmit power. I think that system works well for ratepayers and taxpayers. When Velco has good times, it gets reflected in our rates. Rates drop. When Velco has bad times, it's their problem, not Vermont's taxpayers. Having said that, in terms of the hospital, we have put together an ambitious plan to deliver the best quality care to Vermonters that are suffering from mental illness. I have no doubt about it. The beauty of our plan is that it strikes a balance between some experimentation with private placement through the Brattleboro Retreat and Rutland, although I will make the point they're both nonprofits. They are not for-profit entities, combined with building a state-of-the-art new hospital run by the hardworking state employees who've provided quality care for many, many decades in Vermont. I think we've found the balance there.
Governor, in regards to your trip to LA this Friday, when Governor Douglas took a trip to Asia, you were critical of that trip and said that we should focus the energy inside the state while you're not going to Asia. What justifies taking the trip out of the state to meet with the Chinese vice president?
Well, first of all, it isn't what I said. That is what the person who was running against me said I said.
We have a quote from on air saying that the trip was a junket and that the energy should be...
What I said at the time was that when we pursue new jobs in Vermont, my view is that we should focus on growing jobs in Vermont, focus on bringing in EB-5 dollars to Vermont to help us grow those jobs, and put more emphasis on growing our existing companies. I did not say that it wasn't wise to reach out to China for huge economic opportunities where we think we can get them. Listen, the Vice President of the United States has asked me to go to Los Angeles with 4 other governors and meet with the incoming president of China and the other governors from China. I'm honored to have been invited. Obviously, I'm going to make a trip in this country to do that. And I think we have huge economic opportunities with China, both for EB-5 investors as well as for job creation for Vermonters. I'm focused every single day on growing jobs in the state, and if I can develop a relationship with the incoming president of China, I'll make the flight to do it.
Do you know how many other U.S. governors are attending this?
Yes, the Vice President has invited Governor Brown from California, who's hosting us, Governor Quinn from Illinois, Governor Abercrombie from Hawaii, and Governor, who's the 4th one? Oh, Schweitzer from Montana. So I'm honored to have been asked.
What do you see realistically as the job-creating opportunities that potentially could exist with China in developing this relationship?
Well, you know, the exciting thing about Vice President Xi is that he has more of a connection to the United States than we've had from former leaders in China. We know that China is the job engine one of the job engines in the world right now. Huge economic opportunities for whoever has good relations with China. And here's the job opportunities for us. The first is, it's no secret that we've been seeking EB-5 investors in Vermont companies to bring capital to existing Vermont companies to help them grow and grow jobs. The second opportunity is we have a great desire to both export Vermont-made products to growing markets in China, as well as to find more opportunities to bring jobs to Vermont. So it's an economic engine. I think it's, you know, I'm extraordinarily honored to have the opportunity to have this invitation from the Vice President and go and do everything we can to grow economic opportunities for Vermonters.
Why was Vermont on this list?
You know, I think they tried to find governors from throughout the country. They got as far away as Hawaii and California. They wanted to make sure they had all coasts covered, and They invited me as a Northeast governor, so I'm honored. I have a great relationship with the Vice President. It's no secret that he came here to help me out when I was running for governor. We go way back, and I'm honored to have been asked.
Speaking of trips, have you been in touch with the White House at all about the president's trip here? And would you like to see him go other places in the state besides just the campaign event?
You know, I'm going to keep my advice to the president and myself. All I can tell you is it's an extraordinary honor to have the President of the United States coming to the great state of Vermont. The first time in 16 years we've had a presidential visit. Senator Leahy, Senator Sanders, Congressman Welch, and I have been encouraging the very busy President of the United States to come to Vermont, and we're thrilled he's coming. It's a real opportunity for us.
Have you had any contact with them since they announced?
Personally, no, but I'll be seeing the President on several occasions in 2 weeks.
Will you ask him to come tour the rest of the state or any part of the state?
You know, he's on a tight schedule, so I'm not going to try to dictate the President's schedule. He knows that we want to get as much of him as we can in Vermont while he's here. Vermont's Obama country.
Speaking of which, the Democratic Party put out a press release this morning taking Darcy Johnson to task for a post on her personal Facebook page. I trust you've seen that. They trying to link her view with Senator Brock. Have you seen that? Did you have any reaction when you saw that? Do you think that's a fair association?
I hate to disappoint you, but I am not a friend of Darcy Johnson on her Facebook page, and therefore I haven't seen it.
Governor, some of the folks watching the healthcare debate are saying that the announcement yesterday of what the plans of the exchange might look like, and then by extension the plan and the Vermont Care, should give us a fairly good indication of what the costs will be, because there are already numbers floating around out there from the private insurance industry about what very similar plans cost right now. And
where are you going?
The argument there is we should be able to make a public statement about what the costs are going to be sooner than first of next year. What do you think about that?
You know, I think it's really important that Vermonters and all of us stay with the facts. The exchange is not Vermont's healthcare reform effort. The bill that's being debated in the legislature right now is our opportunity to comply with the federal law and implement an exchange by federal laws and regulations, or have them do it for us. So we've made the judgment. We believe that we should do it because there's some real opportunities there for us. The opportunity, to be short, is to draw down about $300 million every single year to help struggling Vermonters pay for health insurance that they're not getting now. The exchange in itself, or the federal bill by itself, will not contain cost. What the Green Mountain Healthcare Board is challenged to do is to design the first healthcare cost containment system in the country that delivers quality care to all Vermonters and costs us less money than the other 49 states are going to be spending. So the board's begun their work, as you know. I have a lot of confidence in them. They've got a lot of work to do, a long way to go, and we can't figure out how we're going to pay for the Vermont system until we figure out what we're going to pay for. Don't confuse the benefits package of federal exchange as mandated by federal law with either the benefits package or, more importantly, the delivery system that we're designing at the Green Mountain Healthcare Board. We're talking about two different subjects. The federal bill or Vermont's single-payer bill. Right now you're talking about the federal bill.
Should we raise taxes on Yankee to fund the Clean Energy Development Fund? Some of the legislature want to do.
You know, I feel very strongly that in light of the fact that as a result of Judge Murtha's decision, it's clear that Vermont Yankee will continue to operate after March of 2012, that this legislature should examine the tax structure for Vermont Yankee as a result of the new knowledge that for some time anyway, the plant's going to continue to run. And so the answer is yes. I do believe that when that tax structure is examined and modernized for the reality of it's continuing to run beyond its scheduled closing date, that we should dedicate some of the resources that might be raised from that to the Clean Energy Fund.
So do you have any sense of how much, the tax should potentially be raised, or how much revenue you'd like to draw down into the Clean Energy Development Fund?
We haven't gotten there yet. Obviously, the decision's fairly recent, but it should be evident to Vermonters that the plant's going to continue to run for some time after 2012, and the legislature and this administration has a responsibility to come up with a structure that will work for Vermonters in terms of fair taxation.
When you say modernizing the tax, are you talking about increasing?
Well, let's look at all of the money that they're currently paying into the state, and then look at whether their generating taxes has been adjusted for inflation. I would suggest it hasn't, and we could do some additional work there.
Is this whole situation turning out to be your worst case scenario? Yankee gets to stay open, as you say, for the foreseeable future. Appeals, who knows how long this is going to take. Vermont utilities get no power from Vermont Yankee. So that there are all these things that sort of are benefits for Vermont Yankee. State of Vermont gets zero. This is about as bad as it could get, isn't it?
Well, I'm not happy about it, if that's your question. I'm not sure it's as bad as it can get. No, I think that decisions can be made shortly by the Attorney General how we proceed. I still say that it's in Vermont's best interest to retire the plant on schedule in 2012. We should continue to have some faith in the Public Service Board, I do, and in the courts to make the right decision so that Vermont has control over our reliability future. Now, on the price question, let's just back up a minute. The good news is that our power companies have been entering into contracts for many months now that are more favorable than they could get from Entergy Louisiana at a time when it's great to be buying power because natural gas prices are at an all-time historic low when adjusted to inflation. That Vermont Yankee Entergy Louisiana wouldn't sell us power at a price we could afford. And I'm heartened that there's plenty of power on the market, excess power in fact, and Vermonters are getting a good price right now for power. So, I'm not spilling any tears that Entergy Louisiana's efforts to try to get Vermonters to pay too much for their power were rejected by our utilities.
Does the fact that the Attorney General has sought some legal consulting advice from, I guess, a fairly heavy hitter in Washington indicate to you that it makes sense to appeal this decision?
I'm not going to comment on whether appeals make sense or not until the decision's been made about whether to appeal or not. That's something the Attorney General I know is going to make in the coming week.
What's the downside of an appeal?
I'm not going to talk about an appeal until the Attorney General makes a decision about whether to appeal or not. He's going to make that decision in the coming week.
So the money that goes into the Clean Energy Development Fund from Yankee is based on 2 MOUs. One of them clearly expires. What I'm told is one appears to expire. Is that second one where there's a little less clarity? Is it your opinion that it does expire in March? Or are you going to sort of fight to keep that agreement going? Or
I just have confidence, regardless of what past MOUs might have said, or that if Entergy, for every week that Entergy continues to generate power in this great state, that the generating tax will generate enough revenue for Vermont to help out the Clean Energy Fund.
The Attorney General's gone after your former opponent for election collusion. What do you think of that? As a candidate, do you look at it and say, "Whoa, that looks scary," or is that the kind of behavior, talking to the DGA and sharing polls, was that kind of behavior you stayed far away from?
Well, I'll be very clear. That's behavior I definitely stayed away from. But let me comment on the question. I love this job. It takes me many, many hours a day to do this job, and I'm focused on creating jobs and economic opportunities for Vermonters, having us grow out of this great recession faster than other states. I have paid no attention to the question you just asked. except for the press story I read recently, and I have no opinion on it.
Just want to just double check. You said you hadn't seen Darcy Johnson's Facebook page. Are you unaware of the press release that your party chair sent out this morning?
I haven't seen the press release, no.
Not aware of its content?
I'm traveling too fast to read press releases,
Just making
believe
sure.
it or not.
Good to see you're still reading the papers and you're listening to the radio and so on.
Usually delayed.
But as a candidate, the idea that you might, after the election, face fines of tens of thousands of dollars, does that give you pause?
You know, I'm really not an expert on the question you're asking. I can tell you how we ran our campaign. We understood that independent expenditures, which I'm not a big fan of, were separate from anything our campaign did. And that's exactly what our campaign did. We complied with the law. We had absolutely no contact with any independent expenditures. I've said before, some of those independent expenditures as a candidate I was extremely unhappy with. I kept yelling at my campaign manager to take them down, and she was unable to do that because she could not speak to anybody about them. So we definitely operated with something that made the Berlin Wall look like a little teeny lump.
So you didn't share polls with anybody?
No. No, not any independent expenditures. We had our own polling.
Right, but you didn't take that polling, those polling results, and turn them over to the party or the DGA?
No.
Governor, in regards to your support for House Bill 97, giving early child care educators a union, any cause for hesitation on your support for this union after the interaction with Senator Campbell this past week, in terms of threatening campaign finances in his office, saying that we'll take this away if you don't help us pass the bill?
You know, I only know about that what I've read or seen in the press, so you'll have to talk to Senator Campbell about any interactions that take place in his office. I'm perfectly happy to comment on interactions that take place in mine, but I just don't know anything about more than what I've seen in the press.
I did speak to Senator Campbell about it yesterday. He's pretty offended by the way the interaction went down. I mean, just do you have any hesitation on supporting a union that would negotiate that way, if that's true?
Let me put it this way. What I love about Vermont's democracy, what I love about this State House and our citizen legislature is that in all my years of trying to do good things for Vermonters here, I've never seen the kind of interaction that Senator Campbell has talked about from a lobbyist or anybody else. So obviously, if it's true, I condemn that kind of activity. I just don't know anything about it beyond what I've read in the press.
So the union didn't make any similar kind of
Overtures
overture
to
to
me?
you?
Absolutely not. If anyone made any overtures to me like that, they'd be out of my office and never invited back.
But you still support the union?
I'm not going to hold the allegations against one person against child care workers who I believe are getting a raw deal. They're working very, very hard for low wages, and it doesn't change my view about the issue.
But
Does it worry you that these could be the people that are representing this union and this is the way that they choose to
Again, you've got to talk to Senator Campbell about that. I wasn't there. I don't comment on things that I wasn't a part of, and that's, I think, a responsible thing for governors to do.
But he's your former majority leader. You know, you worked pretty closely with John Campbell. Would you not go to bat for him if you heard your friend was beating him up? Wouldn't you go and say, back off?
I don't think Senator Campbell got beaten up. If anyone beat up John Campbell, I'd certainly be there to help him out.
Okay, but maybe it's not beating up, but it's, as you say, if it's true, it's an egregious action. So would you not intervene on his behalf?
If he asked me to, he hasn't. I mean, the point is, come on, team. You know, Senator Campbell is a tough person who can take care of himself. I am a governor who can take care of myself. If we need each other, we ask. He hasn't come running to me in tears saying he needs my help.
Last year with some fanfare, you signed the Native American recognition bill in here, and there are a couple more bills to extend that recognition to some more bands. Good idea?
You know, the devils are always in the details, but as you know, I'm a big supporter of ensuring that we protect the civil rights of all Vermonters and that we continue to break down years of discrimination against people who were here long before we were.
So no downside that you're aware of in that in the year that's transpired. It's only been good. Is that fair to say?
I think the bills that we've signed have been a step in the right direction.
Thank you.